napanood natin ng episode 11 ng Gameboys, and it was fun. And there's still a new twist, and there's new song. At yung actually sabi ko kanina, di ba, the first part actually is like a new opening sequence for a new season. It looks fun. Anyway, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about for this episode. And some of those things I've already mentioned in the live stream at the Review Boys, and also in the Psycho Milk joint reaction. But I'm gonna say it here anyway, so that I can give more points. Alright, so first is the reverse situation. If you remember that was exactly also the same feeling of Cairo with Terrence and Gavreel, wherein he felt very threatened with the presence of Terrence. Nagsisense din siya, and etc. And now it's the reverse situation, wherein it's actually Kai and Wesley. But as I mentioned in the Review Boys live stream, this time it's the different situation. The difference is that Kai and Gavreel are now in an official relationship, and they're actually dating. So that's very much different, because this time meron ka ng aapakan na relationship. If it's not gonna be dealt with swiftly, if there's no communication between Gav and Kai about these things, definitely it may spiral to something else. So that new conflict with the entrance of Wesley, because he wasn't even mentioned in the past 10 episodes, so there's no hint actually of his presence whatsoever, and he just suddenly appeared in episode 11. Kinda makes you already wonder the intention of his presence, or why he actually appeared. And then we got some context clues right there in that episode. The Patronus clue, right? And when Wes was talking about his painting, and he was referring to his childhood friend, his best friend, so it kind of gives us already some clues that he might actually like Kai more than just a best friend. That is why he's trying to establish a connection with him, because this time he has already mustered the courage to actually say it out right. But if you also notice, when the time that he knew about Gav and Cairo, na they're actually called babies, his face suddenly changed. He was disappointed, but very quickly he picked himself up, and then biglang tawa. There is a reason why Gavreel is feeling this way. And what I love about Gavreel, about this episode, is that nakita natin yung other dimension ni Gav, because for the first 10 episodes, Gavreel is always in a monotonous character. He's always the happy-go-lucky, the ever-supportive provider of positive energy. He is always there to comfort Kai. That is always his role in this series. Actually, I can even relate their relationship to what we call a Wangko-Nyanko relationship. A Wangko-Nyanko relationship is a type of a BL emotional relationship, wherein a Wangko, that would be Gavreel, is someone who is always following around. A Wangko is a dog in the BL context. So this is a dog-cat relationship. So a dog is, the Wangko is always following the Nyanko, and always loyal, faithful, always positive, always happy, supportive. While the Nyanko would be Kai. Nyanko in the BL context, a type of relationship na kung saan he is cold, he is emotionless, repulsive. He always tries to get away from the Wangko, something like that. But until such time that the Nyanko will warm up to the Wangko. And actually, that's actually what happened. And nakita din natin yun, di ba? Sinabi mismo ni Cairo that it is actually because of your persistence That's why I actually liked you. So he won. What I also like about this situation is we were able to see the other side of Gabriel, because as I mentioned earlier, Gav is always like this monotonous character. Parang wala siyang other dimension. You know? So for the first 10 episodes, all the conflicts, all of, hindi man all, but most of the emotional roller coaster is actually happening on the side of Kai. It's always about Kai's family, Kai's emotional distress, resistance, hesitation of accepting himself, etc., etc. Now we're seeing a different side of Gav. We were able to see his other side very, very briefly when they had their first fight about the grandmother, and that was the first time that we saw Gav in his vulnerable state. And this is the second time that we saw him in a vulnerable state. But this time, hindi na siya malungkot. He's actually more of agitated. He's jealous. So we saw another side of Gabriel that, for me, I actually liked, and I find it very endearing because, you know, it makes you like see him as a whole person rather than this wangko persona who's just always butterflies and all happiness. And I hope that in the next couple of episodes we have 2 more, and perhaps in the movie and perhaps in season 2 this can be expounded and expanded and be dealt with deeply, because I am interested of how Gavreel came into, you know, developing himself and knowing himself. Another thing that we saw here is the return of Terrence, but this time it's a different Terrence. His aura is different, his tone, his gestures, way different from Terrence that we actually knew him from the previous episodes. And actually, this is what I said. I didn't hate him. I didn't, you know, have any bad blood sa kanya, because I think I understand where it's coming from. Although, yeah, he became a dick because of the gaslighting and such, but, you know, he became repentant, and as we can see, nagbago naman talaga siya. But the question now is this acceptable for an immediate past romantic partner to be, you know, in constant communication with your ex? The answer to that is, this is complicated. Why? Because Gav and Kai has just started their relationship, and Terrence coming back to the picture might pose a danger if this is not going to be discussed properly. And una sa lahat, I think hindi pa siya nag-apologize to Kai. So we don't know yet what actually happened between or among them, but as far as I know, as far as we know, it wasn't shown in the previous episodes that actually sabi lang niya he's apologetic, but he didn't really settle the score between the two. Therefore, his return or his communication with Gavreel might actually become a threat to Gav and Kai's newfound romantic relationship. But this time, Gav is also equally as accountable because he accepted the call. Pero I think Gav, I think the reason why he accepted the call is because he is actually in the same emotional level. He is actually feeling the same, and you know, during the time, he is looking also for someone to actually talk to, and it was Terrence who is just there during that time. So I think yun yung reason why he accepted it. Pero malice aside, I don't think that he has any more feelings for Terrence, or would want to venture out anything other than platonic or friendship. I don't know with Terrence, but sa tingin ko, that kind of communication, there's no malice there. It's just two lonely people, you know, just wanted to talk. And I hope na yun lang. Okay. So sana yun nga lang. But we don't know. Knowing the mind of Ash Malano, hindi natin alam kung anong gusto niya mangyari. There's a lot of twists and turns. And sabi pa nga namin, you know, Gameboys is not Gameboys without those twists and turns, right? So this is actually a treatment of a Filipino telenovela in a BL series. Alam mo yun, yung maraming mga pasabog, mga twists and turns and mga new developments that you were not expecting, and it's always melodramatic. So it's something like that. It takes that course, that line. So, and that's episode 11. So it kind of like pokes your emotions, right? The next that I would want to talk about in this episode is the parents pressuring their kids to actually pursue a professional or a certain course that their kids didn't want. And this is actually evident in a very conservative Filipino family, and this is actually more of a culture wherein parents would actually dictate what they want for their kids in terms of the profession and the careers that they think are more appropriate for their kids. While also looking at it at the sociological point of view, there is actually family honor that's attached to someone being a doctor, a lawyer, or a priest. Well, engineers then as well. So usually yun. And then very recently, when the boom of nurses actually happened in 2006 up to the present, so ang dami din talaga mga magulang na they actually forced their children to take nursing, even though the children didn't want nursing in the first place, because it was boom, a lot of nurses back then are making a good amount of money. Then they were able to travel abroad, they were able to bring their family to the United States, to the UK, to Canada, and elsewhere. Because of that, it's more of like uplifting the social status of the family by actually transferring the somehow responsibility to the kids. So nakita natin yung effect with this pressure kay Wes, because he's being pressured to take medicine, but definitely he doesn't want to. And there are a lot of young people right now who are actually in this kind of situation where they feel that they are pressured and they need to comply, because out of utang na loob, out of gratitude to the parents, out of their love for their parents. That's why they're continuing this path, this career, even though they didn't want it. And there are also a lot of young people who have this mindset of, okay, I'm just gonna finish this course, and once I'm done, I'm gonna take whatever course that I want. So it's just like giving the caprice of the capriccio of the parents para na ma-fulfill lang yung kanilang mga yung kanilang mga desires, and something that you can brag to your clan, brag to your friends. Again, social status more than just pursuing a career of your choice, or pursuing the profession or the career that you actually really love. The source of conflict is always about the self. So it's a self-inflicted conflict and also situational. So dalawa yung klase ng conflict na nakikita natin. Situational because they are in a situation wherein they feel that they don't have any grasp of it, they can't control it. It's either they comply with it or they just go against it. So example na lang is yung eventual transfer nila kay to Kidnon. Right? And sabi pa nga ni Terrence in his post, in his comment, that in this time of the pandemic and physical distancing, everything is like long distance relationship. But actually that's true. And the last that I want to talk about is the highlight of this episode, and I think which is the main conflict in this until episode 13, which is the long distance relationship, or the LDR. Are several tips that I can share to you about long distance relationship. First is that if you want to venture into long distance relationship, it is important that you have this established trust, and you know this. When I say established trust, is that you really have found commitment to actually pursue the relationship, and that you really know your partner very well. Like you know your partner when your partner is lying, you know your partner if your partner might be hiding something from you and all these things, because hindi mo siya maiiwasan. It's bound to happen because he's actually or she's actually living in a different place, living with different social circles and different people. And sabi nga, maraming epal. You know? So there are a lot of people surrounding your partner that you actually are not aware because you're also living in another place, right? So definitely conflict resolution and conflict management is important for people who would want to venture into long distance relationship. So you have to know all these things, right? Next is the age, maturity, and experience. So venturing into long distance relationship would require you to have a certain level of maturity that's way above regular, relationship time. You are not physically present, so you really have to have a certain level of maturity and experience in navigating the terrain of long distance relationship. As for the age, there's no specific age naman in terms of long distance relationship, as long as both partners agree with it, be mature enough to handle it, then it's fine. Another one that's a good tip that I can share with you is when you venture into long distance relationship, technology is your friend. Like all types of technology that will, bridge you and your significant other. Either phone call, text, video call, Skype, Zoom, whatever those technologies are. Actually, you can find ways to connect, right? But the problem is, if there is no technology, then that's gonna be a problem. Like, for example, if your partner is in a place where there's no signal, and their partner is out for days and you don't know what's happening, so it's definitely going to be difficult for you to actually process those things in the absence of any type of conversation or communication. The next is commitment, because you want to commit to this type of relationship because this relationship is really challenging. There are a lot of people out there who will take advantage of that situation, of your situation. And if you do not commit to each other about this and openly communicate with one another regarding what you're going through, what you're thinking, and what you are feeling, then this long distance relationship might cause a lot of trouble for you both. The next tip is that you have to set the limit of the long distance relationship. Even though it can be finite, it can be starting today until years and years, it is important for both partners to actually settle until when should you do a long distance relationship, because as what I've said, any type of relationship would require somehow more physical connection. So you really have to set how long the LDR should last. And if it's not gonna, for example, if it's going to be very, very long, then at least you have to agree and commit to actually meet physically every now and then. It should be part of your agreement. Then next, you can do stuff virtually together. Right now, for example, if you are into games, right? So you can play games together. You can watch movie together via. You can be in a Skype session or a Zoom session, and then you're watching the movie together. So it's more of a bonding. You're watching the movie together, but it's done virtually. You have to be very confident with the relationship. You have to trust your partner, that your partner is faithful, your partner is loyal to the relationship, and your partner will not abandon you in the middle of it all. So it's important for you to actually have open communication about the things that you're feeling, your fears, your anything that's agitating you, anything that's bothering you. because you really need to re-establish that connection every now and then because you're actually far apart. And if you're doing activities together, you really have to keep up with your word. If you are going to meet together and do things together, then you really have to show up. And if you're not gonna be able to show up because some things happen, you have to communicate. In an LDR, if communication is key for any relationship, for LDR, the communication actually is twice or thrice necessary because there is no physical presence. And lastly, you have to set clear rules and boundaries to the relationship. There are some people in the LDR who actually would set clear boundaries in terms of the time they sleep together, the time that they need to talk together via online, the time that they will be doing things together. Also, if you get to know somebody new, you also have to like tell it to me or tell it to your partner. So all of these things are rules that partners actually establish with the relationship. There are some who actually go beyond just all those emotional rules and boundaries. There are even who are actually more liberated and they kind of allow their partners to explore sexually. You know, they can have have sex with another person as long as there's boundaries and rules. But that's a very dangerous path to take because if you don't have that solid foundation and trust with your partner, actually it's very threatening, and it's like you are inviting yourself into a pile of mud and you won't be able to get out of it later on. That is what you call an open relationship in an LDR. Kasi nga naman, di ba, like sex is a human right, sex is a basic need, and since you cannot provide that to your partner, you might also want to venture into online sex, etc., and all those things. But again, just like in my previous video, if you are going to venture on those things, there should be like strict rules and regulations. There should be boundaries that you're going to set because those things are very sensitive. If you like this video, please do like, comment, and share, and post your comments below for any of the thoughts that you would like to share to me. And don't forget to subscribe and click that bell button so that you will be updated to all my new contents that I'll be uploading every now and then. I'm going to see you. Bye everybody.